Welcome to the Healthy Investor Podcast with Bob Mastroianni, where you and I will learn from successful real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and other highly driven individuals about their journey and the healthy habits and routines that play an integral part of their growth. All right, welcome back to the Healthy Investor Podcast. Today I have on the show with me Valerie Shirah and Alex Tam. I'm really excited about this interview because this is actually the first time that I'm interviewing two people at once. A little bit about Alex and Valerie. Alex was born in China, raised in urban California, and he pursued his degree in postgraduate education in the health field and opened a business to serve his community in California. Working between in and managing an office and becoming a parent while trying to grow his business concurrently, he found himself struggling to find a work-life balance and he felt burnt out. Similarly, Valerie is a stay-at-home mom who started a real estate investing business in 2019. She and her husband have multiple short-term rentals and also invest in multifamily properties. When life became overwhelming between homeschooling their kids and managing multiple businesses, she started to use virtual assistants to help keep up with everything. Together, Valerie and Alex have formed the Streamline team to help real estate investors and other business entrepreneurs to have VAs assist with their business. So I'm really glad to have them here today. We're going to talk about VAs, virtual assistants in your business. Valerie and Alex, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks you for having us.
Yeah, great. So who wants to start first? Valerie, you want to tell us a little bit about what got you to this point, how you decided that it was time to start utilizing VAs for your business?
Sure. And this is something I'm super passionate. I get so excited when I talk about virtual assistants because they have made such a big impact on my life. So basically, we got started in real estate in 2019. We found out that my husband has Parkinson's, and we suddenly, it was like a sudden realization that we cannot rely on his job forever. And it was just like a life-changing moment for us. We needed something, and we were already kind of dabbling in real estate a little bit, but it was like that was that thing that pushed us over the cliff, and we're like, okay, it's all or nothing. And so we really started hitting it hard. We got some properties, we got short-term rentals. We do primarily medical students, traveling nurses. And then we started looking into multifamily because we knew that the single family world would not get us there fast enough. We needed something bigger. And so we ended up joining Jake and Gino, Real Profits Academy. And then later we joined MIH Mastermind. And in that process, I got busier and busier. We have 3 little kids. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I don't have a career. This was going to be my career. And so I just started, taking on more and more until the point where I couldn't do it. I honestly couldn't. I'm trying to grade homework, and I'm trying to make social media podcasts, not podcasts, but posts. I'm trying to look for deals online and then answer guests in our short-term rentals. And I could not do it. And so that's pretty much when I started looking for other options. It was like, okay, I know this is what we need to do, but how can we do it? And so that was kind of what I would say the life-changing aha moment when I started looking into virtual assistants.
Well, great. So Alex, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your story. And, I know you started out in the medical field and then moving into real estate investing. And then maybe you can also tell us about how you met up with Valerie and when you decided to form this business.
Yeah. So right around 2017, and that was when I started really hitting social media hard. And they're talking about posting videos, everything. And I found myself editing my own videos. And anyone out there who has ever edited videos know it takes hours. You got to sync up the audio with the video, the lighting, everything that you have to change. So I started looking at, okay, how else can I scale? And I stumbled upon something called a virtual assistant. I had no idea what a virtual assistant ever was. But when I hired my first one, she was a graphics designer and she does videos. I said, cool. Wow. Then it took so much time off my weekend, right? And instead of spending the first 3 hours of my weekend just editing videos, I said, what else can they help me with? eventually they started taking over the marketing of our office. I put myself and my VAs through an online marketing school that we did. And eventually we grew from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 now. So myself, without, not even counting all of our other VAs for clients, I have 8 VAs myself.
Wow.
So they have really completely changed how I operate. Instead of being burnt out every single day, now I have help. We have team meetings. And upon joining Jake and Gino, one of the calls was with Valerie. And how we met Valerie was Helen met her, I believe, initially in the women's call or the family call. It's one of those.
Okay.
So we
So your
scheduled
wife
the call.
Helen met Valerie initially?
Initially, yeah.
Okay.
So they met initially, and she's like, "Oh, you got to chat with Valerie." So Valerie and I, we hooked up and we chatted together. And Valerie was, "Oh, we're talking about goals, right?" And Valerie's like, "Oh yeah, I've always wanted to, have a VA business." And I was like, "So what are you waiting for? Why don't we just?" I said, "I know VAs, right? And you know people who need VAs." And through time, we started working with people. I said, but at that moment, I said, you know what? Why don't we start a VA business together? Why don't we just do this together? I have my background in business, operated our medical practice for the last 14 years now. So I said, okay, let's do it. And it's been wonderful.
Wow.
It's been wonderful.
This is great. And a couple of things. First of all, for me, I'm going to use this selfishly to learn a lot from you. So hopefully I'll learn from you, and we'll also be able to share it with our listeners. But I have to tell you, the positive energy from the two of you is really exciting. It kind of brings, Alex, you and I have had the opportunity to meet in person. Valerie, we've met through our Toastmasters meetings. So we've never met in person, but we've been on some calls together. But you're both, the energy is so exciting coming from both of you. I could just tell that this is a passion, and it's really cool to see, sometimes that light bulb has to go on of like, okay, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. And someone just says, well, why don't we just do it together? And this is really cool, because just knowing some of the people in our community, some of the mutual friends that we have, and other people in real estate investing, and even other entrepreneurs, I think it's such a common theme that you hear people say, I can only do so much. And letting go of that and then bringing in VAs. I'll be completely honest with you. For my life right now, I'm married. I have a little girl who's 11. We have a new puppy that we just got in December. I have a full-time job. I'm doing this podcast. Oh, and by the way, still trying to find deals, underwrite deals. Right. All of this stuff. And just hearing you speak, I'm going, oh, there's probably a handful of things that I could turn over to a VA. So this is great. So let's go down that road a little bit and maybe talk about, so you've formed the Streamline team together, and your intention is now to help people find VAs. Is that, and maybe we can talk a little bit about what the most common things you're seeing and what the most common pain points you're able to relieve for investors at this point.
I would say, with the investors and business owners that I've spoken to, the big thing is finding out, is helping them find out what a VA can help them with. That's the biggest question. Is that, oh, Alex, I need a VA, but what can they do? And I said, well, the question is, what can they not do?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So we start going down a list of things that they need help with. Where do you find yourself on the computer doing the most? Because a VA being virtual, they can't do your dishes. Okay. They're not gonna, they could order food for you, but they can't clean up for you.
Sure.
Right?
Okay. So walking the dog is off the list. All right.
Yeah. Walking the dog, unless if they're booking someone to walk your dog.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I like that.
We just got to get creative sometimes. It's about, okay, what are things that you need to do that takes up the most of your time? So we start off having a half hour to 1 hour conversation just about what do you need? And then from there, once I know what your needs are, now we can go one by one and start tackling these problems, whether it's underwriting, direct to seller. Do you need lists that are pulled? Do you need to contact a broker, right? Can they order food for you? We've had clients that book trips for them, you see, and find things for them to do at a certain destination. So it really depends. So the real question is, what do you need time, or what do you not like to do that you can hand over to a VA to do? Or how can the VA make the most impact in your life? That's kind of the questions that we like to ask first. You know,
Okay.
what about you, Valerie? What have you seen?
Well, I think this is so interesting because every investor or person that uses VAs is different and
Yeah.
their needs are completely different. I mean, there's some general ones that, I mean, everybody wants email management, time management, all those common ones. But after you step out of that normal box, everyone is so different. And I just find that so interesting. So even when I'm talking to investors and onboarding them and seeing what their needs are, I'm learning and growing too, because their needs, I'm like, I never even thought of that. And so for me personally, I think when I first got started, I had a little bit of an expectation that this VA is going to come in, they're just going to know how to do everything. They're going to know exactly what I want. It's just going to get easy. And so I kind of got a dose of reality when I even went to hire one. And it was like, oh my goodness. Okay, first, where do you go? And then once you find different websites, I mean, you could interview 100 VAs before you find someone that has the 3 skills you're looking for. And so it was just like, wow, this is a lot of work. But it was like, no, I know that people do this. I'm going to push through this. So we pushed past that problem. And then when I got a VA, you know, she was fantastic, but she had no idea what I wanted. I mean, how could she? And so there was that training process, and that was eye-opening too. It was just kind of like, okay. And it kind of got a little bit harder before it got easier. But I remember telling my husband, Jonathan, one time, he said, I know that people do this. I mean, I read the book, Who Not How. I've seen examples. And so I thought, if they can do it, believe you me, I can. And I'm so stubborn. I said, I'm going to do this. And so we pushed past that point, and then it was like relief. She started understanding what I wanted. She started looking for deals. And then it was like, once I got a few of those the really intense things off my plate, I could start to get creative. And that's when I started looking at outside the box things. And those are probably, Alex, what you're asking, what do I use? It was for like homeschooling my kids. Like I send my kids to her and she grades their schoolwork. And that is a huge deal to me. That's hours of my day, you know, with 3 kids in school. That was a big thing off my plate so that I could work on my real estate. Whereas before, time was so crunched, and I constantly felt myself saying, kids, go play, mommy's working. And so with her taking that time, because that's not quality time by any means, grading your kids' school is not quality time. So by her taking that off my plate, it freed me up to be able to find more things. And then yeah, I did the same thing. She helped book our vacation, because that's not something I like to do either. You know, just finding things like that, and social media management. I mean, the list could go on and on, but I do like to, everyone's needs are different. And, you know, some of the people I just recommend, if you start writing down, what do you do all day? You know, every half hour, or even 15 minutes, what are you doing? And then at the end of that day, or say you do it for a week, then you can say, wow, this is what's eating up my time. I'm spending hours on this. And you might not have realized that, you know, in the beginning. So that's one trick that I love to tell people. And it really works. It really helps you see where you're spending your time to, you know, be able to see what you need help with.
The wheels are churning in my head at this point. Like, you can't believe I'm thinking of things like email management, calendar management, right? Isn't appointments and where you have to be and what you have to do. And this is really interesting. So my experience has been very, very minimal with VAs. So I'll tell you that I've used a VA. I think I used, maybe it was called Fiverr or one of those services, to have a logo created once before. In a previous position, I worked as a acquisitions manager. So we had some VAs who were making phone calls pretty regularly and doing text campaigns. So I worked with that process. And in that process, it was sort of similar to what you're doing. There was a company, and then they helped to vet out the VAs. So I think, you know, what I would feel, at least as a potential customer, right? So we'll take it from that perspective, because I don't want to just assume I know what everyone wants to hear. Concerns may be, okay, how do I find the right person? And then the training. So maybe you guys could talk a little bit about, how involved would that person have to be, or how much is the Streamline team able to even take some of that off of their plate, as far as actually finding the VAs, training the VAs for specific projects or for specific responsibilities?
I would say, in terms of finding the VA, that's where our interview process really comes in, is because I need to know what you need the VA to do. Do they have to be great on the phone? Are you looking for someone to post on social media? So there's certain skill sets, right? But one thing that we ask all of our VAs, and during our interview process, we make sure that they are adaptable as well. Because even though the investor might need this skill set right now, they might need another skill set later, right? So those are
Sure.
the basic things. Do they need someone who's great in grammar, or do they just need someone who's posting on social media and doesn't have to be on the phone? That's a different person. That could potentially be a different person, right?
Sure.
And then once we know what the client needs, we then go out, and we might already have a pool of VAs that we have interviewed already. But then also we now know what to look for when we are interviewing VAs. Like, oh, this person might be really good for Bob, or this person might be really good for Sam, or, whoever it may be. And then now you still have to have the VA train on the specific platform that the client is using, right? Just think of, say, the investor portal. How many different investor portals are there?
Sure.
Or
Okay.
on top of the scripts, everyone might have a different script. Maybe they're calling brokers, but say social media is very similar, but you do, as a client, have to train the VA on what type of content you want them to post. And that's where Valerie, I believe she is saying, at the beginning, you can find yourself doing a little bit more work, training the person, because think of them as an employee that you just hired.
Sure.
Right? They got the skills, right? They got the will and the skills. Now you got to train them, right?
Okay.
I see.
Okay.
Do you have any other experience, Valerie?
Yeah, and I think the biggest reason it was harder is because I knew nothing. I had no idea how to even interview. So I'm trying to interview these, virtual assistants, and then once I got them on board, I didn't even know how to train. I had no idea that just something as simple as recording our conversation and giving it to her as a reference would be a big deal, and that would really help her. So it was like all those little tips that I just didn't know, and they added a lot of time to my process. And that is one thing that I think is so valuable in what we do at the Streamline team is we have an investor handbook that we even give our investors, and it helps them. It shows them the tips that we've learned, the tricks that we've learned, just different recommendations that we have. And then also the other thing that, is really helpful is we support the virtual assistant throughout the whole time that they're serving the investor. And, sometimes, I have the virtual assistants emailing me, hey, I'm not quite sure what to do here. They want me to do this. And I'm just helping them. And we're able to get them. One VA may know something and another doesn't. So we can kind of connect that knowledge kind of behind the scenes. And so you may have one VA, but you have a powerhouse of a ton of VAs working together in the background. And that's so, so powerful because, otherwise, if you're on your own, you have to research every little aspect. And even Alex and I were messaging today on different platforms. I had a VA, wanting to do some more video editing, and I couldn't remember what one of the things that he had recently found and used. And so we're just behind the scenes connecting the dots for, investors. And I think that is really big help as far as being able to get there faster and not have to go through that rocky road that I felt like I kind of experienced in the beginning.
Well, that's great. That's great information. And I can see that being something that tugs at certain investors or other entrepreneurs of deciding to make that decision because, right, it's like, I know I need to hire somebody, but if I hire someone, I have to train them and I have to go through that process, and then business is tugging. And I think that's something that you're helping to alleviate because if, obviously they have to have communication with the VA, and they have to have a smooth line of communication, but some of those processes are already in place, or some of those questions may come to you first, and you can kind of cut them out while the investor
Right.
can do with their, because I think truly it's about finding your highest and best value and utilizing that, and then trying to be able to have someone assist you with the things that aren't your highest and best value, right? Isn't that the
100%.
crux of what this is? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
That's great. This is really cool. Like I said, I really do have my mind is kind of going in 1,000 different directions here because I'm learning so much. How about accountability? You know, obviously with a virtual assistant, they could be sort of anywhere in the world, right? You may coincidentally hire someone who lives a mile from me, or you may hire someone who lives on the other side of the world, and we're communicating with each other. How does that accountability to make sure that they're doing what we say they're going to do, or they say that they're going to do, and that things are getting turned around in the appropriate time? How does that work?
So basically, what the virtual assistants that we have, they have instant. You can contact them anytime. They're working during the business hours that you have picked. And so, if you want them to work afternoons, when start in the afternoon when you get home, and then work through, that's what they'll do. Mine, I have her start early, and she usually gets a lot of stuff done. And then when I come, she's kind of halfway through, and then we finish out the day together. So they will work the hours that you pick, and they're available to call. I mean, you can call them, talk to them anytime during that set time. So there's that accountability. And then also they tell you when they're starting, and they give you a summary of what they have finished that day. And so, I mean, you can either I hop on calls a lot with mine, just because I'm face to face. I like to hop on, do a little face to face, and hop off. But depending on your style of communication, that's what we cater towards. If you like a WhatsApp message, just kind of summary, that's quick for you, that's easy, that's what you would do. It's kind of whatever works for your personality and for your schedule is kind of how we work the accountability side of it.
Yeah. Well, it's also interesting to talk about, you mentioned video editing and social media content, which is a really big part of the business that, as Alex has said earlier, it is a time consuming thing. Right now with the podcast, right, I'm trying to drum up interest and make sure that people know when new episodes come out, and have everything have a similar look and feel, and right now I'm fortunate that I do have a podcasting company that's helping me with all those sort of things, but I could see where, when my real estate business continues to go in the direction that I want it to go, that's going to need social media content too, and it's going to have to be regular. Social media is no different than any other part of your business, is that it must be consistent. And I think that so many people, we probably have not only done this, but we've seen people do this, right? They're either heavy in, or then they disappear for a week or two. And that lack of consistency, if you can bring in someone that's going to help you create the content and ensure that the schedules, I can see a real nice value add there.
Yeah. And it's about keeping that consistency. And what people have to understand is also the quantity, because there's so many different platforms, right? We have all planned out on a weekly basis. For example, you have your Facebook posts, Facebook stories, Facebook reels.
Yeah.
Now, Instagram has the same thing, those
Sure.
three. So automatically you have 6 things. Then you have your YouTube, then you have your YouTube shorts. Okay. If you post on LinkedIn, Google My Business, and Twitter, now you got 11 things going. So just that consistent posting for 11 things alone is a one person's full day's work.
Yeah.
Between all my VAs, I have each person split up in different tasks. They handle different accounts. Like we have the Streamline team, right? We posted a video on that. I have one VA that posts a video that we did specifically to the Streamline team, right? Then we have our Zephyr Equity Group. I have my online business, and then also the marketing company on top of the medical office, So they all combine and do it different. Imagine every company you're posting 11 times a day.
Wow.
And it's just one piece of content on one platform. You times that by 2 places. Now you're posting 22 posts.
Right. And based on formatting, based on audience, the message is not always the same. It's not creating one piece of content and just putting it in 11 places.
No,
right?
you can't. You have to do something called repurposing.
Yeah.
That's where I talk about a lot, is you create one content and you take clips and pieces and piece it together. The dimensions are different. Everything's different. You know, they don't make it the same. They don't want to make it the same. You know,
because they don't want it to be cookie cutter. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Wow. This is great information. And you know, when we get closer to the end, we're going to make sure that everyone has a good way to reach out to you and learn a little bit more about your business. And as I said, your energy is so great. And so, it's infectious. You're making me smile the whole time because you guys just keep smiling and laughing. So that makes it a lot of fun. I'd like to move on into the next section. You know, this is the Healthy Investor Podcast, and I really like to talk about healthy habits or routines, or just really things that you feel that are a part of your life that contribute to not only your personal growth, but also, you know, your business. And
yeah, I mean, to start off in the morning, my alarm is set at about 4:25 in the morning. Okay. And that's the days that I go work out 3 times a week. It's set at around that time. On the other days where I'm not working out first thing in the morning, it's set at 4:50. Right. So it's before 5. There's no doubt. I rarely wake up after 5 o'clock. But what happens is, on the days I go work out, I go train for about an hour, right? And then I have either a greens drink or like a collagen mix type of smoothie drink, you know? And then I go to the office. I get to the office really early. Like I'm at the office 6:30, 6:45 in the morning.
okay.
And I get cranking, whether it's I need to record videos, I need to go over files, the back office stuff. You know, like this morning I did, you know, certain good amount of time recording things. But then I do my stretches, lunch, and then dinner. And then I make sure I have about 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep every single day.
That's great.
That's kind of like my daily routine.
So what time does your medical business usually start?
We start our team meeting. So we have a half-hour team meeting every morning at 8 o'clock.
At 8 o'clock. So you're getting there around 6:30, and
Yeah.
that's really your time, right? That's your time to get yourself acclimated, get your mind right, maybe do some stretching, knock out some tasks that you feel like you need to knock out before your first team meeting. It's very interesting. So you're in California, you're obviously on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast. I'm a 5:30 person. My alarm goes off at 5:30. So I wonder, do you feel like it makes a difference being on the West Coast as far as time frame is concerned when you should get up, or do you feel like that?
No, it doesn't matter, because it's all about what do I want to do first thing in the morning before 8 o'clock? You know, and depending on the things I need to get done first thing in the morning, that are some must do's, whether it's a workout, whether it's, you know, reading. I need to have that hour to an hour and a half for me to just go over this is my stuff.
Sure.
You know, outside the office, Monday through Thursday. And then, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'll still wake up almost around the same time and knock things out, get on calls, and get started with our day.
I have to learn a little from you about these. So can you tell me a little bit about the healthy greens drinks that you're having in the morning?
Absolutely.
So I'll tell you, I'm a carbaholic. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And one of the hardest meals of the day for me is breakfast. I do my own version of intermittent fasting. I eat dinner around 4:30, 5 o'clock every day.
Okay.
And then I usually don't eat anything until around 9 o'clock the next morning. So usually around, 15 to 16 hours in between, which is good. But when given the choice, I'll always grab a bagel first, or something that's sort of high in carbs. I've been on an oatmeal kick for about the last year, where I add some fruit to it, but I keep hearing different things about some of these green drinks and these energy drinks in the morning. And I'd like to learn more about what you're doing.
I put a little bit of oat milk into what we call Vitality greens, which is powder greens. It's all organic. I just mixed it in there. And because I don't want to wake everybody up in the morning, I just blend it with some water and then I put it over ice.
Okay.
You see, so it's not like, waking up the whole house type thing, right?
All right.
So it's almost like a latte, like a greens latte, like a matcha greens latte, or I put some collagen in there and vanilla collagen, and it blends it. And the scoop of collagen, I think, has only like 3 grams of sugar. But, one of the things that I don't go for the carbs is because there isn't none. There isn't any carbs for me to go for. So that's mainly what I do. It's liquid, but it's got good collagen, good amount of protein in there. So it works out really well.
Very nice. Very nice. And how about you, Valerie?
Okay. So when we talk about how I think the most people immediately think of like the exercise and what you eat. And I think that's really important. But I think that one of the biggest things that gets overlooked is the state of your mind. And I really, truly believe that the state of your mind sets the foundation for all health. I mean, I don't think you could ever out eat or out exercise a stressed body and a stressed or angry or in a state of panic. If that's what your mind is, I really don't think that you could out eat that or out exercise that. And so when I really focus on health, and this is something I really learned even more so the past couple years, even more so this year, is just the quality and the state of your mind it just sets the tone for everything else you do that day. And so, I really like to meditate. I like to meditate on scripture. I like to read very positive books, listen to positive music, surround myself with positive people. And then the other thing that this may sound a little not your typical thing, but I like to take 100% responsibility for everything in my life. And that may seem like, what's that got to do with mindset? But to me, that is so freeing. Bob, if I'm depending on you to make me happy, or Alex, if Alex is stressing me out and everyone around me, is determining how I feel, that's going to be stressful. I have no hope. I could never get out of that. But if I'm 100% responsible for every single thing in my life, it's freeing. Now I have the ability to choose. I have the ability to determine what happens to my life. It ball's in my court. And so just that mindset shift in my life was really big. I felt like it really changed a lot of the way I looked at things and responded. And then it just gave me a sense of calm. And so to me, when I think of health, like that's like one of my big things. It's just like, what is your mind? What's in your mind? What are you thinking? And so when we talk about health, that's like my soapbox.
No, that's great.
Awesome.
That's great. And I think you're so accurate when saying that, for me, I started, I guess, probably about 6 years ago, I started doing the Miracle Morning, and I've now changed, and I did it for, I think, 600 and some days. I don't remember, but the better part of 2 years, I did it basically every day. And then I've adjusted. And I think that for me, there really are 3 facets of my morning that are important to me, aside from them starting off with good sleep. And that is that I think that the mental health portion of it, some sort of meditation or moment of silence or something to just clear my mind, is important. And then the physical, there's an activity portion of it, which is kind of something related to health and exercise. And then I always like to do something educational, something where I'm reading one of the bigger struggles in the morning for me, quite frankly, is ensuring that I do all these things and then don't look at my phone. It's amazing to think, because you could be so triggered to wake up in the morning, grab your phone. There's all these notifications on there because maybe you had your phone on sleep all night long, right? And then you see all these notifications and you're like, ooh, let me just check. And I don't know about anyone else, but for me, that shifts everything. Mm-hmm. It shifts it all. It's like, I've already taken a step in the wrong direction by looking at the phone first versus doing my silence time and my meditative time. So very cool. Very cool. Well, I'd like to move into our final questions. I want to be conscious of your time, and I appreciate you both coming on here. This has been a lot of fun. As you can tell, I probably could have done this for 2 hours with you guys. So I'm going to jump into our final questions, and maybe you can each kind of take a hack at them. First question is, maybe Valerie, you can go first on this one. For you, what is your definition of success?
So, okay, and it probably will change in different phases of my life, but for right now, my definition of success is, am I being a successful wife and mother? I mean, to me, that's my world, my husband, my children, that to me is, am I being successful in what I'm doing? I mean, that's what I'm doing the real estate for. That's what I'm doing, my studying, my learning, and my education, and the work that we're doing. And so to me, if I'm having a successful marriage, a successful relationship with my kids, to me, that's a successful life.
That's great. Very powerful.
Yeah. I mean, being successful when I was younger was more about, hey, my parents always told me, how much money are you going to make? And how much money can you make doing this? And yes, that makes sense when I was younger. But as time got, I just turned 40 this year, and I look at, that's like, half a human life, average human life. Right.
Sure.
And it starts making you think, like, what am I doing with the time that I have? Right. And being successful is being able to enjoy my family. Am I enjoying them?
Yeah.
Right. Am I having a lot of joy while I'm with them? Or am I checking my phone? I love the phone's do not disturb. Okay. Right when I get home, boom, do not disturb. And I don't look at it again until probably for 5 minutes, about an hour before I go to sleep. And that's it. Then I'm done.
Wow.
And
kudos to you for that. I know a lot of
yeah.
people struggle with that, and I do myself. So that's a great thing that you have.
I figured it was important enough. Helen would tell me.
I love that. Cool. So let's move on to the second question. So we're looking for a book recommendation. So for someone who's new to investing, or even learning to focus on their goals or their path to success, can you give us a good book recommendation for them?
One of my favorite ones is, I cannot remember the author. It's so good they can't ignore you. I love that book, and I think I heard about it from Brandon Turner one time on one of his podcasts. But basically, the concept is becoming so good in your field that you're irreplaceable. They can't ignore you because you have just invested yourself in that specific field until you're so good, you can't be ignored. And that really opened my eyes to a lot of ways that I was doing things that needed changed, and kind of just shifted my focus. And so I highly recommend that book.
Great. I have not heard of that one. Yeah. So I'm going to write it down.
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay.
I love the Who Not How that I recently finished reading, because, having VAs is a who not how moment, right? But on top of having VAs, it's more like, instead of me trying to figure out a lot of things, it's figuring out who knows it and who can help me accelerate it, because that has taught me to compress time. I was recently at a seminar, and someone asked, hey, have you made, they asked somebody else and said, have you made 100,000 before? And this guy was like, oh no, I've only made 40,000 this year. And the person asked, well, how long have you been making 40? He said, oh, about like 4 or 5 years. So you've made over $100,000 in 3 years. Now the question is, how do you do that in 1 year? You see? And Excellent. It's going to be the who. It's not going to be the how. The who is going to accelerate you towards success faster.
I like that. That's a great book. I've read it, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm trying so hard to try and implement it. So you guys have been very helpful for that. So before we get to our final question, I want to thank you both for being on here. This has been a lot of fun, really exciting. If you can, just tell us, how can we support you? And then also, how can people reach out to you to learn more about the Streamline team?
You can always reach out to us on Facebook. And then our email for the Streamline team is support@thestreamlineteam.com. Our website is thestreamlineteam.com. So those are probably the easiest ways to reach out to us.
Okay, great. So normally for our final question, I normally ask people to give 3 pieces of advice. We're coming up against time. We have 2 people. So how about we do 1 each? Does that make sense? All right, great. So if you could think back with me, to a young Valerie and a young Alex, we're thinking around the ages of 10 to 12 years old, and kind of knowing what you've learned so far on your journey. What's a piece of advice that you would give yourself or any preteen child to help guide them towards success?
For me, I'd go back to the mindset. I wish I knew then what I know now, as far as how your whole mindset builds every aspect of your life. It determines how far you go and how fast you can go, and just the amount of joy you're able to pull out of your life. And so to me, just, I've worked with, some different life coaches and different, mindset coaches, and it has helped so much. It's really transformed the way I think. And yeah, if I could say something to my younger self, it would be focus on your mindset, because your mind, lays, like I said earlier, the foundation for, all other aspects of your life.
Great.
I would say, you know what? Just go for it. Because there's been times where I would second guess myself. It's like, oh, is this doable? Should I do this? And everything was, for the right intention. I would just tell myself, I tell myself now the same thing. It's like, well, should we do this deal? Is it the right deal? Like, if everything lines up and you've done your due diligence, just go for it. The only fear that we have is just us holding us back. There's not a lot of people, if you think about it, holding us back. We're the biggest holdbacks of ourselves. So just go for it.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. Check them out at thestreamlineteam.com. Alex Tam, Valerie Shirah. Appreciate you both coming on the Healthy Investor Podcast. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and make it a great day. Thanks so much for joining me on the Healthy Investor Podcast. Check out the show notes for more information about connecting with our guest. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please head on over to iTunes and leave a positive rating and review. It would mean the world to me. I'm grateful for your support, and I wish you an abundance of success on your journey to healthy investments and a healthy life.